Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Hey y'all, it's Cassie and Leslie with Power Women of the Trades podcast. We are so excited to be here today with Michelle Myers. Leslie and I got a chance to meet her in Phoenix at the Women of HVACR conference. So Michelle is the owner of Pink Collars and Wise Coatings in Loudon, Virginia. Is that what you said? Virginia. So welcome. We're so excited. How are you?
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. I can't believe it. I'm rocking the pink glasses in your honor. I'm here to do the thing and get deep and talk and share and serve. I'm so happy to be invited. Thank you.
Awesome. One of the things, we were talking about, and when we knew we had to have you on the podcast, was just how profound of a message that we got from you when we were at the Women of HVAC conference. Your presentation was called Finishing Strong. And I know Leslie and I both left just feeling a whole bunch of things. Maybe there were some tears, maybe there were some emotions, but what got you here? What got you into, feeling like speaking and sharing? We all have a story, but how did you become Pink Collars and professional speaking and all of the things that you're doing?
All the things. Well, in 2009, the origin story of me being a business owner is the emotional and terrible crash of my personal life and of the economic business world in 2009, 2010. I had a daughter at the very same time, so I was a new parent. I was going through a divorce and a custody dispute, and I lost my job all at the same time in the Washington, D.C. area. I worked as an architectural designer, and so I built big buildings for very fancy people in Washington, D.C., and there wasn't any money left. And so I had made kind of a mess of my life, and my sister, who lived in Colorado, said, "Hey, come on out. Let's press the restart button. Let's get some refresh. You're not going to find any work there." And they were doing solar panel installation, and they had a solar company. So I helped them just a smidge while I was trying to rebuild my life, and answered an ad on Craigslist for a husband and wife that owned a tree service. And they said, "We just need help with our office. So here's a clamshell phone and here's a Dell laptop, and just do it, please." And so I just started pretending and being them on the phone and helping their customers. And it was totally different than what I had done. Like I said, I was a designer, so I was used to building big stuff and selecting materials. And it was completely a 180 from what I had ever known. But it really resonated with me because I was able to stay home with my daughter. So fast forward, my life got patched back together. I came back to the Washington, D.C. area. And in 2013, I met my current husband, Doug, and co-owner of Wise Coatings. And he said, "I don't know what you do all day with like all these phones and all these laptops. Like, I don't know if it's a little shady or something. What are you doing?" But once he sat and listened to me talk to all these clients with all of these different service businesses, he said, "This is actually a company." And I'm like, "No, man, I'm just a single mom trying to keep it together." And he said, "No, this is a business." And when we got married, he said, "How about if you just try for 6 months, see if you can hire somebody, just see if you can replace yourself." And everyone in my family was an entrepreneur. And so I had a big cheerleading section behind me, and he was leading the charge of having me be an entrepreneur. So he really believed in me when I probably didn't believe in myself. And now here we are. So we serve home service businesses nationwide and in Canada. We work on the 5 major CRMs and the 5 major industries in home service. And I am thrilled to say that we hire men and women that want to work from home remotely, that absolutely have a heart to serve and to solve a problem for home service business owners that may not have a traditional office. They may work out of a shop or a building that isn't super conducive to the office. And so we provide that in a really safe environment, their home. And it's pretty cool. That's what I do.
I love it. That's so cool. And every business needs that. It really doesn't matter what size you are. Sometimes you just need that support. We've all had breakdowns and we've all had starting over with a call center team or starting in I can't think of anyone who doesn't have a need for that type of business.
Well, and I would venture to say the hardest thing probably for the guy trying to get out of the truck, the very first hire is get someone else to answer your phone. That is your very first step. Get someone else to answer the phone, and then you kind of stair-step your way into working on the business. But that seems to be the very first dividing line that you need to make as you start thinking about the future of really not just owning your job, but creating a business.
100%.
So is Wise Coatings, is that a newer with you guys, or you've been doing?
It is. It's a new venture with us. We just started last year. Brandon Vaughn is the visionary behind Wise Coatings. He is an incredible leader. And so he's asking for partners all over the country. And we live in Loudoun County, Virginia. It's kind of a cool place to live. And a lot of really influential people live in that area. So the cost of housing is really high. And so it really does lend itself to home service business success. And so he was like, hey, you guys live over there. What do you say? We do this thing. So it's been really fun. My husband has really loved it. He did sales with Pink Collars for a number of years after we retired him from the working and commuting world. And he's thrilled to be able to get in a truck and get his coffee cup and go to the shop and kind of be out in the world a little bit. Like I told him, I was like, man, you got another 10 good years in you, and the Golf Channel is on way too much around this house. So you got to go. So he's going to finish strong too.
For sure. I love that. So you have an interesting story. I mean, we've heard a few things about what you got through or went through to get here. And I just keep pointing back to that conversation, the finishing strong. And I know we don't have time probably for that entire thing, but I know because it spoke so much to Leslie and I that, if you would mind just sharing some of that with our audience and the people that we know.
It was an important message on how we can finish strong. I mean, that's a lot of us can start things. The hardest part is finishing. So yeah, I think if you could summarize or just touch on the key points of that.
Take us through that journey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, finishing strong really came to me in the last year and a half, 2 years. I've been really thinking about it. I think once you turn 50, you start to see that that's kind of the trajectory of your career, right? You probably only have 15, 20 years left. That's if you work until your 70s. My mom is 77, and she and her husband both have part-time jobs. So they're continuing to work and they love being active. So I see them as a really good example. My dad is fully retired and his wife is fully retired. So I kind of get to see both sides of what that looks like in your 70s. And I'm just really all about activating my businesses and myself and my personal journey and growth to be able to finish strong, because both of their outcomes are very good and you can choose either one. I personally think I'm a little bit of a busybody, so I'm probably going to keep working a lot like my mom. But finishing strong has really been in the forefront of my mind in how to, again, grow and change so that I have a sustainable business throughout my retirement. I'm not super interested in selling, I don't think, unless something crazy came along. So I think at this stage in my career, again, I'm really focusing on what I can do to grow. So when you think about finishing, I'm a classic visionary. And so I start a ton of stuff. I mean, if you come to my house today, I have no less than 20 paint samples taped to the wall. I have all these projects I want to do. I have one garden box put together, but 9 more in the garage that aren't quite ready, right? So I kind of have a lot of things that I'm cooking on. And so finishing is hard for me. Luckily, I've surrounded myself not only in my personal life, but my professional life with people that do finish finish things. So I have good people to watch that can actually complete tasks and complete stuff. And I'm learning this as a skill. And what I tied it all the way back to, which is what I started my talk about, is I tied it all the way back to probably resenting finishing things in some way, maybe not wanting to have things be completed, maybe liking that sort of draft version of things. And how did that impact me in my life? So when I look at maybe my origin story in my personal life, my childhood, I grew up with parents that were in the ministry. We talked about that right before we started on the recording. And in the ministry, there's a ton of stress and pressure on people and families, especially, to be the standard, right? You have to kind of hold up the standard. I stood on the stage with a microphone in my hand when I was 3 and 4 and 5. And so part of the other fun part about what's happening with me now is I'm not afraid to get back on the stage. And I have been avoiding it for years. I mean, if you knew, decades, not even just years, decades. I've been saying, nope, not going to get up there. Nope, don't want to do it. Nope, not going to turn to my dad, not going to turn to my mom. And it's funny because I started to let go of those things really recently. And so if you look at finishing strong and you think about it as a concept, how is that tied back again to your childhood? My parents got divorced when my mom was in her early 40s, maybe late 30s. I was 16 at the time, 13, 14, and 15. Although they finally did get divorced at 16, my mom suffered from debilitating depression. She went into her bedroom and she really didn't come out for years. And to be able to frame that as an adult has been my life's work, right? How to understand that, how to have grace, and how to not have that be the defining point of my life. So when you think about a child raising other children or taking care of a home, which is really what I was doing, I had to finish everything for her. I had to make dinners and clean houses, clean rooms and do laundry and get kids on the bus and do all the things that a parent normally would do. And I was just a child. And so I can look back into my 20s especially and say, wow, I really kind of acted out a lot in my 20s to try to regain some of that childhood. And so when you take that and apply those things that have occurred, they're not anything that has harmed me beyond repair. But when you lay those over top of a lifetime, it really does impact you more than you know. And so I really want people to understand that no matter what their origin story is, that we all have the chance to finish strong. And I just kind of used some really cool application examples of women in the world and tools that I use to kind of complete things in my life, because it's not easy for me. It's just not.
I love that. And I am trying not to get emotional because I think that, and something I said earlier, I was actually driving here today and my assistant sitting behind here and she can hear me. And I was telling her a story about how some things in my children's life happened and how that affected them as these are my stepchildren, and how we've had to, they call me mom now and I'm their mom and I would fight anyone otherwise. But what happened in their childhood before they got to me is something that they will have to work over for the rest of their life. And there's things that, I think if we're raw and real and, even in my own childhood and things that have happened in my life that I maybe don't always talk about because I want to protect people and I don't want to hurt their feelings. But if we're all get down to it, I don't know anybody. I don't know one person, from a pastor to anybody. I don't know one person that can just sit in front of me and say, I've had no trauma or no burdens or no adversity or nothing in my life. We all have a story. And sometimes some of us are really good at talking about it and some of us aren't, but we can all we all can relate to this in some way because there's something that changed us. There's something that flipped the script for us, and I know without a doubt, again, in my own personal life, the things that I really like the finishing strong. I want to use that for myself because that's reframing how many times I've said, I'm trying to prove or redo or fix. We can just move on from that and use it, but still finish and be better than all of the things before us.
Yeah. It's so true.
Well, and something that I kind of zoomed in on when you were talking about that is you were talking about being a kid, just you telling your story, is that you're not a bitter individual. I mean, you're kind of a ray of sunshine. So how are you able, and I say that because I'm thinking back when you were speaking at the Women in HVAC event, how were you able to reframe that? Was there something or an event that happened where I always like to say we have to get to the bottom of ourselves, right? We have to hit the bottom of ourselves to say, okay, I don't want to be this person. Was there an event that had happened, or was it just you being so goal oriented that you wanted to get really self-aware of who you were?
Well, I think the thing that really changed it all for me is when I married my husband, Doug. My husband, Doug, came to the marriage with a daughter, so I'm also a stepmom. And he came with a lot of trauma as well. His wife, my daughter's mother, had been killed in a car accident a year before. And he went through the process of the organ donation and the turning her life support off. And when I met he and his daughter, I knew that I had the tools. I knew I had the tools to meet them where they were. I've adopted Laura Grace. She's 12 and she's thriving. But she was crying every single day. As 2-year-old, she cried for 2.5 years. And it wasn't until she got language and she got her mind around what had occurred that we could talk about it. Now, we have pictures of her mommy in our house, and we have her grandma coming to visit next weekend. She's been our biggest support. But I truly believe that everything that happened in my personal life at the beginning was so that I could walk into their lives and be of service to them, because she's my kid. She's my kid. We were sitting on the floor last night talking about personal and emotional stuff, and we're leaning up against the bed. And she looked at me and she said, "Mommy, sometimes it just hurts so much. I just think I want to explode." And I'm like, well, I know that feeling, right? And so I really do believe that something in me was being built the whole time so that I could walk into that little 2-year-old's life and help her to the next level. So that's really the change that I saw. Sorry. I didn't tell anybody that part of the story yet.
I know.
Well, what's amazing is how God prepares us in our pain, and we don't know how it's going to be used later. And I think
100%.
And if that's hard for our friends that maybe aren't believers. And I know we know, we are, and we know you're as well.
And it's our show, so we can talk about that.
No, yeah, we're not worried. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that at all. But I think that sometimes to my friends who aren't believers, sometimes I just want to be like, look at this, because I've never thought it. I'm going to lose it over. I'm trying really hard. I never have thought about it that way. And the trauma of my own life helped me take care of 4 boys I didn't know I was going to end up having. And so, but there's a story there, and I've always just been hell bent on making sure that I was better than what I went through. But maybe that's the reframing too of what I went through had a purpose.
Yeah, because it gave you all the tools you needed to be the mama that they were waiting for, right? It gave you all that stuff. It's so cool.
I want to touch on something so we all can get our lives together right now.
Counseling session we didn't know we were in.
Well, you said something that was really important, how she didn't have the language she needed at the time to communicate her feelings. And I can say a lot of adults don't even have the language that they need to process their feelings. And that's not a hit, but it's once we can find the language to process what we're dealing with, it really opens up a world in which we can thrive, And Brene Brown talks about a lot of that too, about having language to our feelings and how empowering that is. And this has literally nothing to do with any of the topics that we were probably going to talk about.
But I think it's
Isn't that great?
But it's so important.
It's important and it is great. And again, that's just like the life of this podcast, where this podcast even came from. We wanted to be able to be raw and real and share from our hearts and share to help, especially for we know men and women are listening, but we know a large part of our audience will be women, and we're the world's worst about showing our vulnerability sometimes. We're the worst at breaking down and just saying this is it, and there's so much growth when you can break down those walls, and I can tell you I'm the worst at building walls.
Right.
I can cut it off and shut it down and move on, and that's not no help.
Well, a lot of these things we don't know. We don't have the language to know why we thrive in chaos, or we create whole versions of situations in our head. I mean, I do that, right? I've created a whole scenario about someone that didn't respond back to me or looked at me funny, and it's because we go through life with our own filter. And try to bring this back to somewhat business. We do that in our businesses. These types of, I don't want to say faults. It's not a fault. It's just being human. How this part of us being human affects our business and how we make decisions in our business, right?
What I see it as is it's a coping strategy, right? It's something that we learned to be able to cope. And so what part of the challenge of being a business owner is understanding when it's time to let go of the things that no longer serve you and move into the next thing, right? And that's a really hard transition. In fact, this is exactly what Laura Grace and I were talking about on the floor last night. Both of our knees are bunched up together. The bed is behind us. I'm on the floor. There's tissues between us. We're talking. And I said, you know what, baby? I said something about it almost feels like growing pains with mommy. Mommy's really trying to grow right now. And she looked at me and she said, you still grow? And I'm like, I know. But on the inside, I said, on the inside, adults still have to grow. And we talked about that. And I think that's another thing that women really need to be able to identify with each other, is that I'm really kind of not super good at everything today. My partner, Megan, said that today in a call. She said, today, I'm just not super good at anything. And being able to be okay with that and not judging ourselves so harshly, because we're our worst critics. We're the worst. And like you said, making up these scenarios in your head is just not necessary. And I had a leadership meeting with my team this year, and the one thing they asked of me this year, hey, slow down, have a little more patience. Whoa, that's hard to hear. That's hard to hear from your people. But it's true. Slow down, have a little more patience, right? Am I running too fast? Am I pushing too hard? What's the impact, right? And I think, we really have to do a lot of work internally to meet everyone's needs. But unless we put the oxygen mask on ourselves, we're not going to be okay. So those are a lot of things that are kind of rolling around in my head this week.
Well, and some of us, of course, not me, but those that deal with perfectionism is a coping skill, because we're trying to validate a part of ourselves. And then we just vomit that on all of those around us. I mean, there's definitely benefits to being results driven and task oriented, but for the people around us, we can be a total nightmare.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot. Before we started recording, you had talked about perfectionism, and I wanted to share with you something that I just started this week, and it was based on a sermon that Pastor Craig Rochelle did gosh, I can't remember if it was the book. I am always listening to like 5 books, reading 5 books, listening to a lot of sermons. So now I can't remember if it was his Winning the War on Your Mind. But what I did, it's called, you create a God box, right? And your God box, anything you're worried about, you write that on a piece of paper and you put that in there. And when you have prayed about it and put it in there, you let it go. And if you continue to think about it because you're not trusting God, then you have to walk over out of that box and take it out. And so we've had, it is big and it's so simple, but I think for people that don't know how to implement things or struggle with implementation and action on something like that, it has been so helpful to me because I've done that 3 times this week. We had a crisis at work yesterday, something, sometimes things at work, you get a thick skin and you're like, ugh, it sucks, but I can move on. Yeah. Anytime it has to deal with other humans or losing a good human that you love to someone else, those types of things like trigger rejection. So it hits you at your wound. Oh, yeah. So I had to write that down and put it in my box. And it was a small physical thing I could do. But it was, if I'm going to talk about I trust God, then I got to act like I'm trusting God with this, right? And so I'm going to put this in this box, and I don't want to walk over to that box and go, well, I don't trust you with this anymore, so I'm going to take it back out. And it has helped me. It's something so simple, and it's really what I love about him, because people will say all these amazing things that you can agree with, but then they give you a small task like that you can physically do, and all of a sudden there's a connection. But it's just helped me. And I think it's going back to what you were saying about perfectionism, because it is, I struggle with that. It's your team, my team. I don't even know what they would want to say. They give me a lot of grace, but my husband does tell me, slow down. Yeah. Slow down. Right.
I think we put EOS in our business this past year, Entrepreneurial Operations System. Gino Wickman's book called Traction. So we put Traction in our company, and we ended up hiring a fractional integrator. I didn't feel like I could find someone that I could really resonate with. So I went on the hunt for somebody that could work part-time and remotely and really kind of help assist me. And he says something to me that has legitimately changed my life. So get ready. And he said, for all those perfectionists out there, this is your new t-shirt. This is your new mantra. And it's really helped me and my husband for sure in our relationship too. You can tell somebody what to do, or you can tell them how to do it, but you don't get to tell them both. Because if you tell them both, you leave nothing in it for them. So what to do or how to do it, but not both. That one blew my mind. And so now it's like when I ask somebody to do something, I'm like, okay, I either get to tell them what or how. And I have to choose it. I have to sit there and choose it. And then I can't tell them both. And it's really been beneficial to me, really beneficial.
That sounds hard.
It does sound hard, because I just think because at first, if you just hear it at the surface at first, right? I'm like, well, that's the same thing. I got to tell you how to do it so you can do it, or I got to teach you. But it's not. It's a difference of you're asking someone to do something and saying, go find the way, or you're telling someone, here's the way, now just implement it and do it. But you just can't do both. And so, wow.
I didn't know you could hire fractional EOS.
Oh, yeah. It's a superhuman power out there. There's actually a website for them, and they're fantastic. He is incredible. He's the owner of the business. I'm grateful to have him. He works 8 hours in our company and does level 10 meetings and all the one-on-ones, and really looks me in the camera on a weekly basis and says, no, Michelle, you're not allowed to blow up everything in your business today.
Slow your roll, Michelle.
Can we get his phone number when we're done?
That sounds amazing.
And my other favorite Rickism, I'm gonna get them all printed on a t-shirt. The other one he says all the time, and I'll just be like about something, and he'll lean right in and he'll go, pack your powder, Michelle. Just pack your powder. Can't blow it all up in one day. So he really does help me, and it's so great, because I liken it to sort of bubble wrap on my team, right? Everybody's in bubble wrap, and so we're all safe. And we know how to communicate with each other more clearly and in a more effective way. And We want to help people. This is a ministry and a service for me. Whether I liked it or not, it turned into that, right? And so for me, it might as well be pleasant and helpful. If it's hurtful, then I don't want to do it,
No, it's not. Yeah, for sure.
It is true what you're saying about how your business becomes your ministry, especially if you've grown up and are really depending on how you grew up, what denomination like the religious part of that could be really legalistic, and you think serving has to be a certain way in which everyone else did it in front of you. But truthfully, the business is our ministry, right? The way we get to impact our family. Well, our family is our first ministry. That's obvious, but the direct impact we have on our team. Mm-hmm. And what a blessing and a gift that is, right? I mean, how many people can really say that? But we really do get to have a direct impact on a lot of people in a very intimate way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. So true. And I stand in the gap between business owners and the general public. So the impact that our team members have is like exponential, right? Because they're not only impacting all of the technicians and all the guys in the trucks and all their families, we're impacting all the general public that's reaching out to that company. So we're kind of like this conduit between this massive group that really needs each other and doesn't know how to connect well or easily. And we try to just iron that connection out. It's funny because it feels a lot like my life's work, right? Ironing stuff out, fixing stuff, patching it together, making it work. And so it's fun to stand in that gap, even though it can be a little chaotic.
Definitely.
Well, so one of the other things, kind of moving from all of that, because I know I could listen to you I need you to call and wake me up and tell me I'm pretty and do my, send me some affirmations to say and all of those. But to circle back to pink collars, I know you have a boot camp coming up. Is that right?
We do. We actually just finished one. And so we just finished what's called Admin Bootcamp Adventure. And so what we really call upon the business owners who are our clients, we say, you invest so much training and support with your techs, right? With the guys in the trucks, you got to constantly be reframing what they're learning and how things are changing in the field. Wouldn't it be awesome if your admin had that same support? Because effectively, business owners didn't get in the business. To kind of run the office, right? That may not be their best skill set. They might be better in the field with the folks in the field and out there doing stuff with their hands. And I'm not trying to generalize here, but in general, that's what we see. And so Admin Bootcamp Adventure really offers that supportive bootcamp experience. So it's a 2-day event. We get together 5 really cool ladies that teach it, and we teach systems, people, finances, sales, and marketing. So really every aspect of the business that an admin can impact, we really want to touch on that. So 2 days, this next one will be in August in Las Vegas. It is on waitlist right now. So I'll make sure and give you the website. I don't have it committed to memory. We just built it yesterday. So I want to give it to you in the show notes. I'll make sure it's there, but it'll be a really fun time for your admin to be able to up level some of their skills. And then we give them a Trello board for each one of those segments of the business that we teach. So they really have a takeaway and a place where business owners can connect with them and communicate those tools or what they want to accomplish within the business in that specific sort of subject. So it kind of builds a library for them.
That's best for the admin team to go to, not the owner, or both.
It is. It's best for the admin team to go. So yes, send your admin, send them to camp. We'll have a ton of admins there. And then afterwards, we have a community, a membership that they can join. And we have monthly masterminds and monthly hot seats and a whole Slack environment. And it's really goofy. I'm the DJ. I drop lots of songs and we have a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. I'm excited. So do you have any, we got to see you at Women of HVAC this year. What's the next step for that? Where are you speaking next?
Next, I will be, the Jobber Summit is coming out on March the 1st. So I'll be having that go live. And then I will also be at Fence Tech this next month in Oklahoma City. So I'll be there in March. And then I just got asked to speak at the huge convention, and that will be in Tennessee in August. So I got a lot happening. I'm trying to take my family on the first European vacation we've ever been on. So that's trying to be on the books, but I got a lot happening. But it's all in service of people and making people's jobs easier. That's really what I want to accomplish for these admins. I get up on stage and the first song is Freedom by George Michael. Yes, the 1990s version. And because I really want admins to understand that they can have freedom in their role. It doesn't have to be a grind, whether they're a CSR, dispatcher, whatever role they fill, that we can really give them some support so that when it does come time for them to outgrow that role or add an additional person, it's an easier transition for them.
I love that.
Well, you'll have to hit us up when you're in Oklahoma City.
That's good.
Oh, yeah? I'll be there in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's
maybe
where
we could meet
we're
up.
in Oklahoma. Yeah, she's in Oklahoma City. Yeah.
I live in Oklahoma City.
Yeah. And I'm in Tulsa, so I drive up here and see her to record. But yeah, she's in Oklahoma City.
I love that. Okay, I will text you all my deets. I will text them all to you when I'm going to be there and what's happening. I do know how to run an Uber, so I am fully capable of meeting you wherever you are.
There's your freedom right there.
That's
Love
awesome. That's awesome. Well, and for anyone that is interested in reaching out or learning more, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, it's super easy. I'm going to build a landing page for this episode because this is so much fun. And I did rock the pink glasses for y'all. And I'm so obsessed with all of your stuff. And so it's going to be just pinkcollars.com/power. I'm going to put all of the tools and resources. I might even drop the slide deck for my Finishing Strong talk. I do have an audio recording. We didn't video record it though. So that was a miss, but I want to make sure to give the audio and the slide deck, and I'll drop that in this landing page for everybody listening, and that'll help you be able to get a hold of my team if you need anything, but you can also just visit the site and get the resources that we talked about when we were all together in Phoenix.
I love that. I love that you're willing to share that. And if anyone listening, take the time and just listen to it and go through the slides.
And all the resources, there were some really cool takeaways with links and apps that you could use, kind of some brain training techniques that you could implement and take action on.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We're big.
You're so welcome. It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome.
Well, have a good day. Thank you. We hope to catch up with you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Michelle.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review on Apple and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.